Yo, hello and welcome back to the Lenko Show. This is episode number 88. And today I have got the privilege of sitting down with good friend, fellow captain for the Great Britain Lions men's team and captain for the Manchester Titans as well. Sam Fossey is going to be on the show. We're going to be talking loads of stuff to do with obviously the Manchester Titans, the Great Britain program, and then I have a lot of random questions for Fossey. And his day-to-day job is generally in the gym, training people, working with clients. So we'll definitely be getting talking and training at some point as well. Loads to go at, loads to go through. So I don't want to waste too much time talking through the introduction. Let's just get on with it. Enjoy. Fossey, welcome to the show, mate. It's good to have you on.
Thank you for having me. Oh, it froze a little bit there. Thank you for having me.
I was going to say, what a time to have a drop out of your audio and your connection. That would have sucked.
Yeah, I know, right? It is better now.
Obviously, we've had Sam Bloomfield on the podcast recently.
Mm.
I managed to speak to that guy for over 5 hours. What do you think of Sam Bloomfield?
So a lot of people think I don't actually like Sam. And I think it's a misunderstanding. So I think me and Sam, we've hung out outside of football a few times with the mutual friends and we got on fine. There's no problem with it. I just think a lot of the time in football, we don't always see eye to eye on things. And sometimes because we're so strong personalities, we can clash on it. But all in all, like he means the best of what he wants. Like I don't think he's a bad guy. His intentions are pure for the most part. So I think he's a good guy. I don't have an issue with him. I'm not gonna say I hate him or have any problems like that.
Cool, that's all right. So we can get that one out of the way. Um, did you pick up on anything in particular that he said in either of the two podcasts that we recorded where he was talking about the Titans or GB? Was there anything that you thought was pretty poignant and quite important?
I think pretty much a lot of it's quite spot on. I think especially with the Titans side, like when you kind of how he speaks on it, he's kind of been there from the beginning. So what he's saying is how it is built and how it's been brought up over time. And then obviously as you bring in other people along the line from all sorts of places, they've all brought their own things as well. So it all does fit in massively. And I think the same with GB as well. It's all quite it's quite, I guess, repetitive, but it's repetitive because it is what it is. Like the culture that's being built by Jason, the players, the coaches, the goals, they're all in line with everybody. So as much as it's just an agreement because I don't think he said anything that was not right, not in line with it. It was good, it was to the point, and it shed light really great on what both those programs are doing right now, to be fair.
Yeah, I think there's quite a lot of consistencies, aren't there, between the like any program or team that's successful, whether it's Titans, GB, Warriors, any team from unfortunately Manchester
Mm.
City and that kind of stuff. Any team across any sport, there's very similar trends that run through the culture. So might as well take heed on that. So you mentioned like Sam had been with the Titans from the beginning. What point did you join the Titans?
I transferred over, or yeah, transferred fully. I think it was end of 2018 for the 2019 season, but obviously missed the first, I guess, 2 years because obviously COVID hit. So all football got knocked out until 2021. So my first actual season was 2021 till current. So this is like the fourth season now, I think, with Titans.
What was that like from the start? Was it very different to how it is now?
I would say so, yeah. I would say so coming over, obviously with Titans, they were either second place in the division, potentially just missing out on the playoffs because Merseyside were kind of back and forth with them. And it was kind of like they were on the brink of it. And it was, I guess, the pieces were there. There was potentially a few things missing and a few things that just needed to carry on being built to kind of build what like the masterpiece it is now. Whereas 28 plus GB players, 3 plus GB coaches playing in like it just doesn't happen overnight. 3 captains as well. It could have been 4, but Tonye decided to go Warriors, but we'll leave that there. It is what it is. So I think
hopefully that's not breaking news to anyone that might be listening.
Oh yeah. Not like he shared anything on social media or
No.
anything, or lives in South London. But I think, yeah, like it wasn't different to the fact that the level wasn't there. It was just different because it was still the early stages of what has been built now, 4 years later. And to be fair, I've said this quite openly. Well, I think I've even said it to you. I think if I was actually driving in the time when I was making my team change, it most probably would have been Tamworth over Manchester. But Manchester was the easiest one to get to when I wasn't driving. So it just ended up being Manchester, not Tamworth.
Gotta say, I think looking back to when Tamworth were, I mean, I don't suppose I can ever say really unsuccessful, but back when it was a struggle, because it was a struggle, like James Hossack will know this better than anyone, Jason will know it, Martin Hilton, he'll be well aware of it. Like, and Stephen Gregory, that program was on the verge of complete and utter obliteration at one point. Like, I think we turned up to pre-season or even some training sessions, there was just like a handful of people, and it was. Do you know what? Actually, what that team achieved with such a small pool of players and such a small squad is quite honestly somewhat fucking baffling. Which is massively different compared to obviously how it was when it was mega successful under Martin and Jason, and similar with the Titans now at training. We've got, I mean, I've never known anything like it. How many, like
Too many people.
The amount of linemen, coaches, like everyone in every position group. Like we've had a session this year where we've had like 3 kickers, 4 kickers, and like spoiled for choice.
It's nice. It's nice when you get a little bit of rest in the indie drills though, because you've got so many people. Especially now I'm getting up there in age. It's nice when there's like 20 people in front of me. I'm like, yeah, take your time. It's okay.
Just
a lot easier
at the back of the group. So before you came to the Titans, you were you at Sheffield?
Yeah. So the team just before Titans, it was Sheffield, and then obviously prior to that was out in Florida somewhere, and then London Warriors is where it started. So yeah, Sheffield was the team prior to moving over to Manchester.
So just talk us through that journey. So did you say Warriors, Florida, Sheffield, Manchester, basically?
Yeah. So
what a
how
random,
it all worked.
what a random.
It's all over. So when I was younger, I think around like the age of 13, 14, I went out to America with some family, and I ended up finding like flag football. So played flag football for a bit. I was like, this is actually quite fun. Like it's something different. Never done it before. When I came back to the UK, I looked for a flag football team. And obviously living in South London is where I found the Warriors at first, because they're right down the road from me. So I was turning up thinking, yeah, let's go play flag football. And then the coach was like, yeah, so you're here to play contact, right? I was like, I mean, I thought it was flag, but I like contact. So yeah, let's go contact. Why not? And then, yeah, I mean, ever since that age, late 14 to 15, I mean, nearly 18 years later, just never stopped playing. So been there since forever now.
So what was that? What was the culture like at the Warriors at the time when you first went there? Sounds like they've kind of snagged you and just reeled you in and just gone, this kid's just messages about coming playing flag. He's been in Florida. I would just get him in contact football. That'd be fine.
No, so the Florida was afterwards, because I never told him that I played flag in Florida, because I just didn't even know it was a big thing in the UK. So I just wanted to carry on playing the sport. So the culture there when I was there kind of going, it was actually still not somewhat of a new team, but it was still building up to what it was, because the senior team obviously were the London Cobras at first. They started building up from like Div 2, Div 1 and everything like every other team has to do. So until about the 2010s kind of onwards, it was kind of the building stages. So the whole culture was fit around, like I always say, is like the coaches that we had with like Tony Allen, like he's legendary in the UK game. Like he's near enough untouchable for what he's achieved when you actually look at his resume. And then you have other coaches like Allen that's in the NFL now coaching at the Cowboys for the D line. You have Marvin Allen that played in the NFL. When you have all these coaches like Jerry Anderson, like the culture is like their expectations is win, is be the best. There's nothing less that they know. So when they were building that team to be what it was, obviously as the best team in the country for years, they have that standard from the start. So they expect greatness. They expect you to be good. They expect you to work hard. They expect you to look after your body, to be that athlete, even though it is an amateur sport. So the culture was just, to me, it kind of installed pretty much like kind of what I am as a player today, of being on time to practices, showing up, not missing film sessions, watching film, working hard. Even if I am considered like one of the best players, I still put in 100% effort. I don't slack off because of that. It all built from that.
And then you say you were up to Sheffield after that. What happened there? Why did that happen?
So after Warriors, when we won the first national championship in 2013, that's when we finally like beat the Blitz, because that was a long-term goal, because obviously the Blitz were powerhouses for years. So I think the first two finals before that, one of them I was still in juniors, so the younger 11 sides, and then the senior team lost. The first year I went up to seniors was pretty much a role player. I never started. It was kind of a culture different sport, like going from an 18-year-old kid playing against grown men, very, very different.
Yeah.
We lost in the finals then as well, even though we beat them twice in the regular season. So we thought that would be the year. So that was a tough one. And then 2013 is when we finally beat them, and it was kind of like everything you put in just works. So then after 2013, went over to Florida with some family again and played quote unquote semi-professional football for the Treasure Coast Bengals. And that was 2 years. So it was a good experience, good fun. Obviously, competition was up there across the board. Like it was fun, learned a lot out of their like completely different game speed. You go from a sport where, or not a sport, but a level where you get a lot of good players, but there are some holes in the team, to where everyone on the team is just able to play football. And you're just like, damn, that's a bit crazy. And then coming back to the UK, I was going to go back to London, but like rent prices skyrocketed. So I came back to the country. I had no bank account. I had no job. I had nothing. I was like, I can't move to London. I have to be on the streets. Like, how am I meant to be there? So luckily, I had family up north, so I was able to stay with them a bit, and then just message the first team I could find, like football wise, to carry on playing, and it just happened to be the Sheffield Giants.
And how long were you at the Sheffield Giants for?
So 3 years in total. So 3 seasons, 3 years.
And then
So gone.
no, you go.
So first year was their rebrand year. So they were going from Predators to Giants. So I just kind of took that first year as a player as it's going to be whatever it's going to be, because I didn't know there was even football up north. I thought it was all down south. So
And
I was just
again,
like,
this is the things, you Southerners, you just think the world revolves around the fucking South.
I mean, it sounds good. It's expensive, but it's good. To be fair, I think I prefer the north a bit more than the south, but we won't get
The
into
North
that
is a million times
conversation.
better. It's a million times better.
It's a lot less stressful, let's put it that way. So yeah, it was the rebranding year. So I was kind of just going there first time meeting head coach, who was Toby Chester at the time. First time just kind of stepping into a brand new team in the UK because I thought I would never play for anyone else other than the Warriors. And then season didn't go great. I can't remember what the record was, but I believe it was like a 3-7 record, 4-6 maybe at best. So it was a bit disappointing, especially kind of me as a personal player, like what I'm used to with having that success on teams. Second year was better because we actually had quite like a good recruitment push. We got solid players in, was starting to create somewhat of a culture, building towards things. And then the season kind of fell through again. I think that was like a 4-6 season again, off the top of my head. So I was just like, right, this is kind of getting a bit tough now because I don't like losing. Like, what's going on? And I think the third season was, I was kind of in and out the door anyway. I was kind of like, the third season, I was 2 years, I was kind of up in the north. People were starting to actually realize who I was because I was kind of out the country for 2 years. So no one in the UK really knew who I was. So as I came back and started making more of a name for myself, started getting in touch with people, people started to realize kind of who I was as a player, what I could do. So more and more talks kind of happened with teams outside of Sheffield. But I had kind of like this loyalty where I was like, no, like I play for Sheffield. I'm not just going to leave them. But then it just got to the point where how much can you kind of take on and accept when your standards are so high as just a person to like you want to win, you play this sport to win? What's the time where you cut it off? And I think that came. Go on.
I was literally just going to go, and what was that point for you? Because I'd been in that same situation where, I mean, I played for Tamworth for maybe 10 years, maybe just shy of 10 years, but obviously you as a loyal person, you do feel that sense of loyalty, and you don't really kind of want to throw that kind of thing away. Like it's almost like leaving a big relationship, isn't it? Where you've been with someone
Yeah.
long. And what for you was the point where you went, do you know what? Not for me anymore. I'm going to move on and see what I can do.
So I think with me, I wanted to carry on improving my game because I was already a good player. I was already kind of making plays. I was known around, starting to get known more and more around the country. But then I just felt like at Giants, with the coaching situation, it just wasn't giving me what I needed to improve. So that was one of them. Not from a standpoint from head coach, because I'll always talk highly of Toby, like he was fantastic. But I think just from another coaching stand, like I wasn't getting better anymore. It was kind of self-coaching at that point. I wanted to start winning again. I wanted to be around other people that wanted to win. I just wanted to be around that culture again where it expected to be great. I also had, that was my kind of first running with GB where I was kind of like in and out of the program, never really there. And then I kind of made the 75, didn't make a travel in, and I wanted to take GB further. So I needed to take myself to a situation that would start challenging me again and make me better and be around people that could make me better and challenge me. So that's when it came to the point of the only two teams that were available were obviously Tamworth and Titans, Manchester. So with having talks with Jason, and Hassok reached out a few times as well to have a chat with me, try and get me to Tamworth. And then obviously Bloomfield, as he always done, he was messaging me for a few years to try and bring me over. So it's just, it's like I said, if I was driving at the time, it actually would have been Tamworth. But I wasn't. Manchester was easier to get to. There was people near me that could drive to Manchester. So that's what the change happened.
It's a shame I didn't know you at the time. I would have probably been in a position to give you a lift, and we could have had a little car share down from Sheffield.
It could have been. Well, that's what it was. I
What
think
could have been? What could have been?
well, what it was is you was in Sheffield, I think, and then at the time, obviously Dan Smith was in Sheffield as well.
Yeah.
So there was two ways of getting there, but I didn't know anyone that much from that team, so I couldn't know who to reach out with.
Yeah. And
Because I
also,
think the pull with Tamworth at the time, sorry to cut you off, but the
no,
pull
no.
for Tamworth was obviously Jason was there, but then also Martin was there. Martin was obviously coaching the DBs at GB that time. So I wanted to be around that to learn from them, get around them because that would push me to where I wanted to be.
Just to think you could have won a national title as well.
That's the thing. I could have got
Ah,
another one.
could have got another one. And
Could have
then
got another one.
obviously in that time you've made the switch across to Manchester, and we've already spoken a little bit about culture. So like in your own words, summarize that the culture that we have at the Titans.
It's always hard to summarize it. So I like to always like summarize things in words because words are easier to kind of like understand. So like,
That's better than trying to summarize it in a dance format for a podcast. That's words would be
yeah, I mean,
more
yeah,
useful.
nobody wants to see me dance anyway, so let's just leave that there. I would say the culture is competitive, competition, uplifting, and just goal driven. They're like the three things that I would say build and mold the Titans. Because I'm sure people get annoyed with it when they see everything, but we consistently compete. It's consistently back and forth in practices. Even in games when we're playing other teams, we're still competing with each other to be like, I got more tackles than you. I've did this. I got a pick. You haven't got a pick. Like there's always competition, and it just betters people. And then the uplifting part is we truly are like. Don't get me wrong. Not everybody hangs around with each other outside of football, and that's fine. You're not going to do that. We've got like 80 plus people, 100 plus now. But as soon as you're in those training times or game days, everybody looks after each other. They uplift each other. They make each other better. They want to push each other. They're there for each other. It's just an uplifting environment. And it's just those things just bring so much to what builds the culture and what makes it so good to just stay around and be around.
Good. I'm glad you've mentioned competition because we have a couple of questions actually. I put a poll out on my Instagram earlier today and asked people, or I gave them the opportunity, as I did for Sampling Field. Some of those were
Yeah.
sketchy, but presented the opportunity for them to ask you a few questions. All right, so we'll go through a couple of those.
Yeah.
The first one, specific to the competition side of things at practice, training, games, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, every session finishes with a scrimmage. Question number
Yep.
one: who won last night during scrimmage, and why was it the offense?
See, the fact that they had to say it was the offense, it means it wasn't. That just proves that they're trying to like push it. I can't remember the last time offense actually won a practice. It's been such a long time.
I mean, I've
So
got
it
I've got
definitely wasn't.
I've got to admit I don't really pay that much attention because I'm always off down the other end of the field doing
just kicking things.
stuff. Yeah, kicking stuff, just wandering around on my own in circles.
Just
But you
walking
can
around kicking.
like I can always hear what's going on, and there'll occasionally be arguments. There'll be people whining about, oh, it's a first down, it's not a first down, and or that was holding, or it's PI, and you just think, good, if they're the kind of things we're going to be arguing about on game day, then fuck it, let's go
Mm.
with it.
Oh, 100%. To be fair, like, listen, if offense want last night, they can have it because they talked about running the ball in touch contact. So if we're going to brag about running the ball in touch contact, then go. If you need it, take it. We'll give you that one. You can have it.
Okay. I'm not sure they'll even want to take that win because of running the ball in touch contact.
They've got to. They've got to.
Maybe they
They
will.
won it. They ran the ball in touch content. They won it.
You got to do what works, though, right? And speaking of
You do.
contact levels, why is your preferred tackling form no arms like you're a nugget?
Because I'm powered by McDonald's chicken nuggets, as you know. So when you're powered by so many 20-piece chicken nuggets, there's just no other way to do it. You got to use nugget power.
I've seen you tackle a few. I've seen you obviously lay quite a few hits, and obviously you would be a terrible rugby player. You would be permanently in the sin bin anytime anyone comes near you. It's just,
That's
it's like
why
that.
I stopped it.
It's like that missile shape, like almost like fold your arms across each other and just dive head first. Like, you know, when people are doing the salmon, leaping salmon, it's literally like that, just throwing your entire body through somebody else.
Do you know what it is? Like, let's be honest. Everybody knows I'm quite undersized to play this sport, especially for the position I play. Like how physical it needs to be. So I just need to be 100%. I just need to listen. If I put everything in it and you somehow still get through, then cool, you won. But people aren't gonna fear me because of my height on the field. So that's I gotta make them fear something.
And then, I've got another one here as well. How does it feel to be 1-0 down at practice?
1-0 down to
Yeah,
who?
I assume to the offense.
So we've had what, like 4 practices now, and then they haven't made a peep about any of the other ones. So let's bring in all of the practices, and then we'll talk about all the interceptions that we get in practice, the defensive touchdowns we return with those interceptions. But yeah, you can have touch contact running game. You take that.
I'll come back to some of these in a little bit. You mentioned there about the physicality required to play your position. So DB, safety, cornerback, whichever part of that on the defense. Like obviously defense is incredibly physical. You have to be, well, I would argue probably more physical than you have to be on offense because obviously your entire job is on the line where it's all about speed, making tackles, taking gaps and killing people, really. When we were at the CFL Combine last year in Nottingham for the international kind of combine event, do you remember? I remember the conversation. I remember hearing it, or you told me about it. But the chap who was running the combine basically was saying that if, as a DB, if you don't run, was it a 4.6?
Yeah, I think if you don't run a 4.6, maximum 4.7 laser time, they're not going to even look at you.
Yeah. I mean, that just says how important it is, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's ridiculous because obviously when you're laser time, there's no error. Like you can't cheat it, you can't stop it earlier. Whatever you run is what you run. So there's no cheating it. And to be fair, if you kind of look at, I guess, the NFL and CFL and all those professional American football leagues, even when he's saying like 4.6, 4.7, that's still quite generous. Because when you look at these NFL players that are running in the combines, mostly all the DBs are running 4.5s below. So 4.7, 4.6 is quite generous to like give somebody leeway for. So it kind of makes sense if you run anything above those. It does kind of make sense. Like you're a bit like in deep water if you can't run those.
Because people are just going to run straight past you.
Yeah, because you got to remember with the CFL as well, they have those rules. Obviously, the receivers can get run ups, so they can start running and be at full speed by the time the ball's snapped, and you're like backpedaling. So you have to have something about you: agility, speed, lateral movement, or you're just toasted. not happening.
And obviously, like if you want to, like the higher level you want to play at, the better those measurables have to be.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think people are missing out in the UK? Because obviously, like we don't grow up with it typically as a sport. I mean, I came from a football
Mm-hmm.
background. What were you doing before American football? Was it always that, or
Yeah. It was always football. I played football as well, so that was my whole thing.
so? I mean, typically people kind of fall into it by accident. So how do we actually, as athletes, as individuals, how do we actually get to those levels where we're potentially catching up to the Americans, or we're getting more and more people at that elite level?
Um, I would say this is obviously there's a load of things you can do. I say the first thing, and this would be years and years and years in the work, but quote unquote high schools in this country, colleges, universities, they all need to have dedicated S&C sporting facilities. Because that's one thing, for example, if we're comparing to the US, that's what they have. Every school has a S&C facility. So you get these kids that are playing sports, they're squatting, they're deadlifting, they're benching, they're sprinting, they're doing all these things every single week from the age of 13, 14 years old upwards. For the most part, my school back in the day had a gym, but it was just a normal little gym. It had a couple of machines in it, and that was it. If you wanted to get trained by an actual coach or anything, you had to be picked up to like a sporting academy. And if you didn't get those availabilities. So that's kind of the wider range. I think it needs to actually go through the actual whole educational system and change that outlook on sport. It can't be just so academy and football based. It needs to have a base where it fits all sports and all kids that play sports have availability to actually start training and be around those coaches to build those foundations. And then I would say if it's somebody that just happens to fall into American football, they need to find themselves a good coach and they need to get on an actual S&C plan and stop training like a bodybuilder, because that is what so many people do is they start playing American football. It's a completely different sport, dynamic movement, threshold, everything. And then they're like, yeah, I've been to the gym this week. I did like 25 sets on chest. I was like, yeah, why? Well, what has that done for you to improve in sport? Like, at all. And it's just this constant understand that they don't understand how to program, but then they're still so prideful they won't get a coach and pay for a coach.
I think that's a big factor as well, isn't it? Because obviously you go into the sport, you see how physically demanding it is. You think, football, I need to change my body, I need to change my physiology, I need to be stronger and more resilient, more robust. And then you just go to the basics of getting massive and getting a little bit obsessed with that, training nothing that carries across kind of any specific resemblance to the sport, probably neglecting sprint work,
Mm.
neck strength training, change of direction, plyometrics. Like none of those kind of things will typically fit in with your traditional bodybuilding program, but are literally the exact things that
No,
you need
not
to
at
do on
all.
a regular basis.
Yeah, 100%. If you just get a kid doing, or not even a kid, just anybody in the sport, even if they literally did 2 sprint sessions a week, field sessions a week, and then they did 2 full body sessions that were split between power movement, strength movement, some little body pump just to feel good about yourself. If they did that consistently, they would become so much better athletes in the sport. And that's not even going in depth of what you can get them to be doing. That's literally the bare minimum you can get somebody on to improve and be better straight away.
Yeah, super simple stuff, but it really, really works. And then I think you mentioned so like starting off in schools like high schools. I mean, I remember like you talked about your high school gym. Mine was literally probably the size of my living room downstairs. Probably the size of that.
Mm,
And there was like two rowing machines. You got a lat pull down, bench press, and like as a kid in like year 7, year 8, year 9, you don't really know any better. You typically not even allowed in there, especially if you're not being supervised. It's literally all
yeah,
bodybuilding stuff. There's a few dumbbells. You're just messing around, getting a pump on. Your mates are dicking around doing something they shouldn't be, like bouncing on a Swiss ball, and you don't really develop those athletic skills. And then when you talk about, essentially the main carryovers, and one of the things that I think America does so well is track and field and athletics. And I mean, it's no wonder
yeah,
that absolutely clean up when it comes to the Olympics every 4 years. Not to mention because they've got a nation of like 600 million people to pick from, but the fact that
yeah. They got pot pick
they
from.
are literally doing competitive athletics in volume. Like there are a lot of them doing it as kids, like pretty much
Mm,
their entire life from being a junior athlete. And I know for a fact that we definitely
yeah,
don't do that here. And if you want to get that in the UK, like your high school doesn't have a track. Like we had like some
yeah.
crap.
You have to go somewhere.
Mate, I don't know about you. We had some crappy shale stuff that if you fall over on it, it just slices your knees to ribbons. I remember having to play football on that shit as well.
No, we didn't have that. We just had a concrete playground and a bit of grass at the back because that was what was on the playground. There was no track or anything.
I mean, I know we're in quite a
It's
country place.
crazy to think.
Yeah, go on, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, it's crazy to think because it's not. I don't think it's required, but I would strongly say there's most probably stats out there, but at least 95% of American football athletes on the team in skill positions all run track as well.
Yeah,
Like they just place them together. I think I read something once where a coach was saying, like a high school coach or college coach, couldn't remember. He was basically saying all of his skill players positions, so like wide receivers, running backs, DBs, he tells them and pretty much assigns them to go run track as well. And it's crazy that you have a coach promoting you to basically do a whole other sport alongside your main one.
yeah. I think it's important that coaches have that little bit of humility. Like I recommend to a lot of my guys where they can get down to a track, get down to a track with a proper sprinting coach because
Mm,
I can coach it. I'm qualified in sprinting, but I don't have the track facility to do it. So where possible, get yourself down, get yourself in front of a
yeah,
coach, get yourself in a mix with other people that are trying to get faster at the same time, and mix it up with them a little bit and see how far you can push because that track speed will translate across to the football field. Like if you think, well, I want to get faster for football, well, who specializes in getting fast? Track athletes. It's a no-brainer. Like it's so simple, but they'd rather go and do,
yeah,
3 sets of 10 on back squat, followed by, you know, 3 sets of 20 leg curls, calf raises, and just get a leg pump rather than actually
yeah.
running and doing a useful movement pattern.
Yep.
So what like obviously that's where people fuck up. What does your training look like at the minute? I know you've already mentioned like a real basic start point, sprint twice a week, 2 full body sessions, do one for speed, one for strength, and include getting a little bit of a pump on in
Hmm.
that. What's your training program like at the moment, given that we're in pre-season?
So right now, I'll bring it up because I'm pretty much gone into pre-season slash in-season training now, just to kind of make things a little bit easier on my joints because I am 32 in a few weeks, so it's all catching up now.
Only a number, mate. It's only a number.
So it is, and that's why I like still being part of GB because I prove all these little young kids that they still can't run around with me. So it's fun. So right now, on a Monday, I do a power / push pull session. So my power is very kind of low volume, just high velocity, high output throws. So like med ball throws, like broad jumps, like medicine slam balls, just to really still generate that power, still generate that force, but not take too much out of my body, get my body moving again. And then the upper body day is literally just one strength movement and then 2 sets of pretty much every upper body just to get some pump going, get the body moving, get it feeling good. Tuesday, I'm normally quite recovered, so that's when I do my main speed work. So if I ever can, I'll get to a track. If not, I've got a way where I can kind of modify it to be in a gym environment as well. So it can kind of still have the same level of output. Obviously, you want to get to a track, but there are ways to do it in a gym as well if the equipment is there. I also pair that with my heavy squat day as well. So I just keep my squat as well. And then I normally double up on Wednesday. So I do a single leg power day with a push pull. So working on that single leg power strength, make sure that stays solid throughout the season. That's a nice little upper body pump. Thursdays, I normally have fully off. Then Fridays, I will normally go back to a conditioning day. So I get some conditioning work in, long distance conditioning, get the heart work in, then a heavy hinge pattern. So normally stick with RDLs. And then Saturday's full recover, and then Sunday is back to football.
I want to go into the concept of off days with you because I think this is something that a lot of the younger athletes
Okay.
not necessarily be able to swallow. I think it's something that I definitely struggled with, the entire concept of an off day or a rest day. My entire
Yeah, same.
philosophy when I was starting the sport was just no days off. I watched an Eric Thomas video and thought, I've got asthma, I can't breathe, put my head in the water. I don't want to take a day off. I want to go. I want to do everything all the time, everywhere, whenever I can. So yeah, the whole concept of an off day, like how can people who want to dedicate themselves to the sport and want to progress and are possibly on the verge of overcooking themselves, what can you do? What can you say? Is there anything that you can think of that would help them kind of calm down, take the foot off the accelerator a little bit, and trust that they're still going to maximize results?
I think it's more about just kind of educating them the right way. It's an easy explanation, really, because if you're talking to athletes, they understand things differently. So if you tell somebody, right, you said to me you want to be the best, you want to go to the next level, you want to achieve whatever you want to achieve in this sport. If you want to do that, rest days will make them achievable. They'll make them better. And if an athlete's actually serious about it and they're willing to listen to their coach and really want to push to what they're going, they're not going to question it because there's a reason they're getting told that. And it's just the understanding, like, if you listen to so many different interviews from professional athletes, from coaches, from S&C coaches, they all say you need to rest and you need to recover. It's that whole cliche, isn't it? Where they say, obviously, you can't drive a car without petrol. If it's low on petrol and it has no fuel, your car's not going to move. And that's the same how your body works. If you're not fueling it, if you're not letting it recover, if you're not filling it up, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So then you need to
Or
just have that simple understanding. Or
you said there it's not going to work. It's either not going to work or it is simply going to break down on you. And typically the key telling point for that is that you're going to get injured. You know, you're going to tear a hamstring
yeah,
or something. You're going to end up getting ill, and ultimately you've accumulated too much stress. The only way to really reduce, and I've had this conversation with a couple of my athletes recently, where I think corrective exercise tends to be a really big thing in sport. And it's like if you've got an injured area, if you've got an injured shoulder, it's like, well, let's do loads of corrective exercise. Let's do loads of external rotations, upward rotations, and internal rotations, face pulls, like retractions, and all kinds of extra stuff for the shoulder. And it's like, have we thought about just letting it rest for a fucking minute?
Yeah.
You know, take your
It's crazy. It's crazy because obviously when you're injured, you do need to keep things moving. You can't just static it because then your body's gonna kind of go into all that protection and shut down a bit. Because it does what it does, it protects what you need to protect. But you're right, you need to eventually just be like, right, you need to chill for a couple of days, eat some good food, drink some water, actually get some good sleep, lay down on the couch, watch TV, and then after those few days, then you can slowly and progressively implement those recovery processes. You can't just jump straight into it because you're just going to make it worse. You don't aggravate it.
Yeah, and this is something as well where I spoke to Dean about this on the last podcast actually as well, where we were talking about like being a kicker is actually quite hard because it's such a repetitive movement, and it's not saying it's always at 100%, but every time you kick a ball, like you're kicking it hard. You can take a bit off it now and again, but you're going at it full whack, and it's can you essentially like can you do enough to earn and maintain the respect of your teammates without coming across as just being a lazy fucker that doesn't do anything? Because I think that's quite an easy reputation to get as a kicker. It's probably fair, right? But it's a case of can you work around your current issues? You know, like for me, if my hip or my leg is hanging off, like it probably will be when we're at training on Sunday, is there anything else that I can do? Is there anything else that I can practice to actually still be useful, still be working on something and still improving my game? So I imagine off days for you will probably involve obviously getting your nutrition right, making sure you're sleeping and recovering from that perspective, but probably watching film, maybe watching practice from the night before, finding out whether the offense really did win. And, you know, likewise for me, I'll just go and practice some real simple drills that don't actually involve kicking a ball. I might just work on drops, that kind of stuff. And there are things that you can do that will still add to your game without taking away from your current levels of recovery and your ability to perform the next time around. And I cannot hear a word you're saying. Hold on. We might have some sound issues. Off you go. So yeah, off days you can still be useful.
Cool. Yeah. The thing is, like what we were saying, is just about understanding because with rest days, like I was saying, I had 2 high ankle sprains last year on the same ankle. So that crossed over, I think, nearly 10 weeks of the season, missed loads of training sessions, loads of a few games, I think 2 games overall. But it's still that understanding where I rested my ankle. But like you were saying, I was still able to do other things to improve my game, carry improvement in the gym, training other things around my ankle to still develop and keep that up, but also still not put pressure on the injured area where it will keep me out longer. So I think it's just that understanding where, again, I think it goes back to actually just having somebody there that can actually guide you in the right way as a coach and be like, right, you're getting really burnt out right now. Let's have a few days off from training, get some active recovery and some longer walks, swimming, like whatever you want to do, and let the body kind of chill out for a bit so we don't get to that injury part. But then also, if we're already at that injury part, having someone there to advise you how to train around it, but you to carry on getting better as an athlete. But yeah, 100%, you need to have recovery days. You need to be smart with them.
And obviously, you actually juggled quite a lot last year, like with those 2 high ankle sprains. Then you managed to go back to back with the Titans, 2 wins out of 2 for GB. Busy year overall, wasn't it?
Mate, oh mate, it was a really busy year. Like everyone was kind of celebrating after the second final win, and I started to think in the back of my head, I've got another game to play. There's no rest. It's like gotta get back out and just carry on.
And then we've got, I think this year, arguably more difficult with the European fixtures thrown in. Then we've got at the end of the season, there's a back-to-back. I think is it confirmed as Germany 1 week and then Sweden the next?
I don't think Germany's confirmed because they still have to play Israel, I believe, in August time or something like that to see who actually gets qualified in the top 12.
All right, I didn't realize they were
But
leaving.
then, yeah, it's either Israel or Germany. Yeah, and then Sweden.
How are you feeling about the year ahead? What's your thoughts?
Um, Personally, as an individual, I can't wait. I think it's another platform with the European Games to one build the level of play in the UK. Again, teams finally entered into European competition from the UK. So that's one exciting thing is as much as it's a Titans thing, if you look at the bigger picture, it's a UK thing to start building that platform that we should have a semi-pro league. We should have an ELF team. We should be respected in that regard as one of the best countries in the UK. So I think people look at that as a bigger picture. That's kind of one thing we're trying to do, as well as improve the Manchester culture and playing scene. But then also, as a personal standpoint, I'm excited to play more European games just to keep proving to myself, really, that I am still one of those top players as regarded in the country as my position and play against those top level teams and still perform the same.
How do you think we'll do in Europe?
I think, do you know what? I'm most probably one of, if not the most confident person in the UK with this spot. I will never, ever, ever bet against the team that I'm on, that I play for, that I believe in. So to me, I think we're going in there to win Europe. We're not going in there to compete. We're not going in there to be like, look, we're here. This is the UK, and then leave. My personal goal, and I know a lot of other people feel the same, is we are going to there to win Europe. We're not going to participate, we're going to win. And I'm confident. I think the team's very strong. I think, obviously, when you have the amount of GB athletes that have been selected to game day squads, that have been selected to 100-man rosters, it's a good outing because you have those players that have played on that level and played on that stage. And then we also have a lot of good players that could be playing on that stage and I think are ready to step up to that stage. So overall, as a team, I'm very confident going into it.
I think I share that same thought process and confidence. The thing that sticks in my mind is just win the first game. That's the one. Like for me, the entire thought of it could be one game against the Stockholm Mean Machines, and then if we lose that, we're out of the competition. For me, I would feel fucking like that terrifies me. The thought of that genuinely being the case
Yeah.
scares me shitless because that's not what I want. And I remember the last time the last time I entered a club competition in Europe was for Tamworth off the back of our national championship winning year, and we went out there similar time of year, very early on in the season. I think it might have even been our first game, and we got our asses handed to us by Copenhagen Towers, and they absolutely smashed us, and we just weren't ready. Like, they were bigger, faster, stronger. They were well drilled. They had a couple of really, really good players, and we just weren't ready. And that was a horrible experience. And then the second game, we played against Karlstad Crusaders, narrowly lost at home, which was disappointing. And a game, again, I think that team, we were good enough to win it. We just didn't quite believe that we were in that position to win it. And I think that's something that we need to definitely take us into Europe and the rest of this season, is that we are good enough, absolutely, to compete at that level. And then, so I'm winless in Europe because I then later on that season snapped my leg and ended up watching the Oslo game from hospital. So that was and that was the one that we went on and won, which was really annoying. But I'd rather we won it than not.
And one.
Yeah, like what's
No,
your
definitely. I think you hit the nail on the head, because obviously when you said about Tamworth having the talent, but then you said they might not believe they should have been there or kind of could been there. I think people underestimate what confidence can do to a player and to a team. I think when you have consistent people every single training session, every single year, in every single chat, in every single conversation, saying, nah, it doesn't matter who they have over there, we're going to win. It doesn't matter what they've done, we're going to win. It doesn't matter what they think, we're going to win. It's so infectious, so it just builds so much confidence that it rolls forward, and you have to have that confidence. I think the first year where Titan won the first national championship, it was an up and down year, but I think consistently I was the only player potentially all year long that said from day one to the end, we're winning the championship. We're winning it. We're winning it. I don't care who's there. I don't care who gets there. I don't care about Tamworth. I don't care about Warriors. I don't care about Bristol. We are winning the championship. And I continuously said it and said it and said it and said it. And as it kept going on, more and more people kept saying it. And more people kept saying it. And then when everything started going right in the finals, everyone was like, yeah, we are going to win it. We are going to do this. And it all built up to just need to build that confidence.
How surreal is that moment as well, by the way? Like, I spoke to Sam about this. When I say Sam, I spoke to Bloomers about this on his podcast, where, you know, in a game which is so important for the team, where it's come from and the levels it's progressed through to get to that point, to be in its first national final, to then be kind of, you know, romping away with it against one of the most prestigious teams in Britball, in the London Warriors. And the game's not even finished yet, but you know there's not enough time on the clock for them to bite back. You know, you can generally tell in American football where all the momentum is heading. And was there a bit of a surreal kind of pinch yourself moment of like, fucking hell, like we've done it, or like it's about to happen kind of thing? Did you get any of that?
See, it was a little bit different to me because obviously I won it back first time in 2013, the Warriors. So the Warriors back then, we kind of did it the same way Manchester did it when we knocked off the Warriors that year.
Yeah.
So there wasn't that surreal feeling like, oh, it's finally happened. It's finally got a championship. But it was more so a surreal feeling because it came from the first championship of the team that everyone eventually expected to be great and be that top level team in the country. And then the second championship with the Titans, the reason why it was kind of so meaningful to me personally is because it was done by a group of guys that built a culture, that built a team that nobody actually believed they should be there and win it. So they were completely different like spectrums where I guess one team was expected to become a powerhouse, the other one was expected to be, you're really good in the north, but that's where it stops. So they're very two different where the feelings were different because they were different expectations. But obviously, you can't ever beat all that hard work you put in over a year with a bunch of collective people to win the ultimate thing, which is a championship.
Yeah. I think it was pretty much the same sort of thing with Tamworth, where it's like, yeah, you're really good in the north, but it's not going to be enough for you to win the national title. Like the Blitz are going to take that, and then, like you mentioned, the more you do it, that expectation kind of grows. And obviously, this year the targets beat Europe, win another one, three-peat back to back. Like that expectation increases again and
Yeah.
again. How would you suggest people handle that? So obviously, you're a captain of the team. You've got, a lot of experience behind you. And one of the questions here, let me try and find it. Uh, it's all about you being, yeah, right. Okay, so why are you so calm during football situations, and how do we channel Zen ourselves? That's from Beth Pilkington. There you go. She sent like 5 of them in for you, so I might ask her more. We'll see. But yeah, so like that whole thing of dealing with the expectation and ultimately channeling that inner focus, calmness, and ability to just go, that's just the job.
I think it comes from the preparation. So I think it does all boils down from as a person, as an individual on a team, what you put in, what that team puts in. And if you're that confident with those things, preparation, that what everyone's been doing, is so easy to keep situations. Because even if we go to this year or last year's Britball, when we went into like the third, fourth quarter, we were down. I think we were losing. And then everyone on the sideline, obviously you get little, oh, we got to stay focused and all that, because that's just what brings with the territory. But everybody was calm. Nobody was worried. Nobody was like, oh my God, we can't come back. We can't win this game. And that came from the preparation we put in, the preparation the individuals put in, the preparation the team put in, the preparation the coaches put in. It's hard to feel nervous and it's hard to feel too small for the moment if you've done those things and put them in place.
It's interesting you say that.
And I think that's just where it comes from. Like me as a personal player.
No, carry on.
Go on.
I was going to say, it's interesting that you say that
I,
because,
I was just going to say,
mate, do you play Call of Duty on this connection?
I don't play Call of Duty. No, this is just a laptop.
I was going to say, if you
It's
play
not
Call
my
of Duty
fault.
on
Okay,
this,
you go. What was you going to say?
your kill to death ratio must be through the fucking floor. I was going to say, obviously at the start of this episode, we were talking about the kind of the qualities that run through winning teams, and you mentioned about the preparation, massive theme through everything that we're doing at Manchester, massive theme through everything doing at the GB program, and then that calmness kind of when you're in the mixer, when you're in the middle of battle and everything's going off around you, and that ability to stay focused and trust that the outcome will work in your favor. Like we had 2 very, very close games. Well, to say 2 very close games, it was close for a game and a half. We had that very close game with France, and then we were 0-0 with Denmark for a considerable part of the first half, and then someone did something. Do you want to? I don't know if you want to talk us through that.
Yeah, so got scored a little touchdown, went into half winning, so it felt good. I think there's not really much to talk about. I think it was coming to the end of half. I think there was like 7 seconds left. So we called prevent defense. So we just made sure we had everyone in a position where whatever they caught, they were just going to get tackled straight away. And the thing is with Denmark, they were running the same things all the time. They never changed anything. Like even on their Hail Mary, they still ran similar concepts they were running the whole game. So like my responsibility was pretty much just kind of sitting on the hashes, keeping everything in front of me. And then I'm kind of sitting on the far hash close to our sideline. The QB starts rolling the other way. I was like, oh, okay, the play's over. Like nothing's going to happen now. He's rolled out. He's going to get sacked, throw it away. And then I just see him throw the ball, and I was like, you just thrown that right to me. It's like, yeah, you've literally just thrown that right to me. And I literally uncharacteristic because when I normally get things up, I scooped to the air and then just kept running with it. And then luckily enough, everyone was frantic blockers. And then, yeah, the half up rather than tied.
Did you make it?
It was fun. It was fun. And it was a touchdown as well. It was a touchdown.
I was going to say, because I think my thought in that game, having been through what we went through against France, I was thinking, like, this suits us down to a T. Like, the fact that no one's really scoring doesn't fucking bother me. Because I always felt like we were going to win that game. The fact that we were comfortable in that situation, not like we wanted to be there, but the fact that we were close to them, that was all. That was the only place we needed to be. As long as we're close to them, we'll hang on in there, and then we'll throw the last punch and game over. And obviously, then second half offense managed to string a few things together, and I felt like we won somewhat comfortably in the end with a pretty decent performance.
No, 100%. I think it was very comfortable. And like you guys were saying on the other podcast, and like you just said now, I think just what we've got at GB right now as a team, we're so close as a team and we're so trusting in each other and our coaches. We don't have room for that. Really. It's that thing like I was saying, like we go into every game prepared. We go into every situation prepared. So even when the games are 0-0 going into overtime or 0-0 going into the half, or even if we're down, it doesn't bother us because we're that prepared from players to coaches to captains to veterans. It's just like, right, okay, that happened. What we're going to do next. We'll go do what we need to do, and then cool, we'll get back in the rhythm of it.
How important was that defensive performance against France, by the way? Like, I feel like I spoke to Sam about obviously what we did in Denmark and things like that. I'm like, to concede 0 points in 4 quarters against one of Europe's top teams. Like, talk us through that.
It's a crazy experience because obviously you see all names on paper and you're just thinking, right, the defense is stacked, which it is. But I think the more and more that we work together as a defense, the more practices we did, times that we got more time together. I think people don't realize because we really don't see each other much, but the fact that we built like those bonds and we like trusted each other, we wanted to play for each other, we wanted to win together. It just creates that
that level of elite defense. And it creates that passion where if you see one guy doing something, you're to go in and help it. You're not just leaving him on his own. And it just all comes together. And then I guess we have a coach like Coach Duncan just like steering the ship. Like, he's such an amazing DC. Like, he's planned to a T. Everything's on point. He listens to his players. He'll listen to adjustments if that's what his players are seeing on the field. The same as with the other coaches. I think there's everything we built. Yes, the first two cycles just finally came together against France, and for it to come against such a great national team was just an even better feeling.
And then obviously with those 2 wins in the bag, we've just had the trials process through December. We've got the first session coming up in 2 days' time, which by the time this podcast goes out, we'll have already had that. First proper session of the year for GB. You're looking forward to that. What's your thoughts on it?
The oldness in me is thinking, damn, that's a long day, and that is a long day. It's a lot of things going on, but the young self in me that still loves football and just enjoys it is I can't wait. Like, when you get a whole day of football, you get a whole other chance to just compete against the best players in the country at your own position against other positions. When you get to be around a setup where you're just working professionally with coaches that are like the top minds in the country, it is something that you can't not be excited about. And it's even more exciting that we're having, I think, most of the 6+ people that are young, hungry, ready to kind of make GB program better for years and years to come when people like myself finally hang up the cleats. So it's a good feeling. I'm looking forward to it, to be fair.
How do you think that, because at the minute it feels like everything's going right, whether, I mean, I suppose it's just because we're involved in the Titans, but to a lot of people it'll feel like things are going backwards, and I always see these comments that get thrown around out there that, you know, the national governing body are doing certain things for unknown reasons or bewildering reasons. But from the perspective of where I'm sat right now, it feels like everything's going right with the Manchester Titans. Everything's heading the right way there. And then with the GB men's team, it feels like we're heading in the right direction with that. So, I mean, maybe I'm a little bit blinkered, definitely a bit blinkered, but it feels like everything's heading in the right way. How do you think the game in the UK evolves and gets to that next level? Like you mentioned before about the semi-professional standard, and, you know, having a semi-professional team or a team in the ELF, and possibly even franchises within the UK that are competing against each other in like an elite super league. Like, how do you think that the sport in this country can break through the fucking glass ceiling that seems to be above our heads at the minute to get to that next step?
To get it out of the way first, because obviously everything I'm going to say afterwards, it requires this, but somebody needs to invest a lot of money, because without the investment of a lot of money, obviously nothing's going to change. Everyone knows that. So if we get that out of the way quickly, nobody can be like, yeah, nobody has any money. Like, we need someone with a lot of money. But I think two things, like, personally, that for the UK is one of the GB program keeps developing. Is, I think, the more and more success that we have as a GB program across all levels, not just men, all levels, the more that we're successful, the more somebody will start looking at we actually have the talent to compete against Europe's best, because we are one of Europe's best. And then two, I'm sure a lot of people might not like to hear this because nobody likes Titans, but if the Titans, like we are, going to be successful in Europe, somebody that starts seeing that a UK-based team can be successful against these semi-pro paid athletes with leagues that are paid and funding, it might give somebody a kick up the arse to be a bit like, oh, actually, we do have the players, we do have the teams, we do have the availability to actually fund these people. Because obviously it always comes down to money. That it's always going to be that, but we need to kind of stop using that excuse and start pushing towards the things that are working. We've got a team that's playing in the European tournament. That's a massive plus for the country. We've got obviously the UK flag system now, which is more massive for the grassroots and development. We've got a GB squad that is currently ranked 5th in the whole of Europe for men's. And I think for women's, I think we're ranked 2nd in like the world or something like that. So like we have these programs that are being successful. We need to keep riding them and then building off of those programs and those kind of stations and going from there. Personally, that's what I think.
I think you're right. That would be delightful. I mean, just imagine how good that UK franchise could be. Like when you consider like the guys that we're going to be seeing and the guys we're going to be around this weekend, you know, the players that are there. Imagine if that was a team playing together on a consistent basis. I mean, I think we do a pretty decent job considering we're together maybe once a month for 5 hours at a time. But imagine if that was just imagine if that was a franchise. Like the amount of British guys that have got serious talent that are mixing it around in Europe and beyond is just fucking crazy.
It really is. I think if you put like, because let's be honest, like everybody that was involved in the Italy game, we was a few experience points away as a team, beating them and competing for a top 4 spot in the first year together as a team under new coaching and management. So if you think how close we were already to basically being the top 4 European national program and being a couple of plays away from doing that, like this cycle onwards, like the sky's the limit. And I think it's like what you said, the amount of people that we have, and names that we have and the coach that we have, it literally does just baffle me how we don't have some level of an elite league, a professional league, ELF team. Because we'll go toe to toe with anyone as a country, and I'll take that to the grave. Like I'll never get off that hill. We'll go toe to toe with anyone.
I agree. The next thing I want to do with you, so I've still got a bunch of questions that I'm just reading through a couple of them now. Still got a couple of questions that I want to ask you or need to ask you, I guess. So we'll start off with, because we're on the theme of GB at the moment, the 5 most underrated players at GB currently.
Damn. That's tough. That put me on the spot. That's hard to think. There's so many new people as well. The first person that I'll say that I think is underrated, and the people that know him will obviously rate very highly, but there was a few years that he's missed out on GB and I guess potential opportunities. But the first person that I would say is underrated still at GB is Ricky Delver. I would personally put Ricky as the best corner in the country, top 3, top 5 without question. So Ricky would be my first one. No, he's not really rated, but that would be my first kind of push. The next one I'd put out there, I think he's still incoming because he's very young, but Jensen at linebacker. I think Jensen is a next, like, all-pro, all-European linebacker player that's going to come through the system. Like, he's unreal. I think he's about 20, 21 max. Just an absolute freak of an athlete. So again, I don't think he's really underrated. People don't, but when he busts through that ceiling, he's going to be just unreal. Trying to think. I think you got Aaron at running back as well. So as much as I don't get it wrong, Aaron had massive success. Like in Denmark against France, he won MVP and scored a touchdown. But I think when people look at our running back group, when you got people, I guess, like Dwayne, like Andy, like Tom Jones, like even Glenn now as well, TC, like a player like Aaron, not in like a disrespectful way, you can kind of forget about him for a bit, but every time he gets an opportunity, he shines. So I think even though he's very known, he can be somewhat counted as underrated, under the radar.
Do you know what as well? I don't want to
Mm.
necessarily blow smoke up Deji's ass because he was an incredible running back himself, great coach, great person, like just a great human. But when you look at look at the running back room at GB, that's it. It's an insane room, right? Like that, the guys in there are just a joke.
That's crazy. It is crazy. And then it makes you think when you have to go 2 full practices, full contact, trying to tackle them on rotation. It's not fun. It's not fun. 2 more people. I would say Aaron Jones at receiver. I believe he's in the top 100. I think he was out in Germany last year. Very solid player, like great hands, good route runner, strong contact, good blocker. He's definitely up there. And then you know what? I'll put someone else in. This might be someone because they'll think, oh, he plays for Titans, that's why you're saying him. But I'm gonna say Ben Mitchell. Because a lot of people won't know this, but he's just made the team this year. So he's in the top 100. And I believe last year was his first full year playing football. So I think Ben this year is going to take a massive, he's going to shock a lot of people. That would be my 5. I don't know a lot of defense, but that would be my 5.
That's a good 5. I like that. Bit of a slightly less serious one, but I haven't witnessed this. But why do you inhale your food like you've never been fed?
I just like food. It's enjoyable. I guess it's one of those situations. I want to eat it so fast that no one can try and take it.
So you feel under threat when you're eating, is that what you say? Did something happen to you as a kid? Is there something you want to tell us about?
No, so you know all the time when you bring out food or sweets or snacks, and then someone looks at it and like, "Oh, let me have some." I don't want to give you any, so I'm just eat it quickly, so you can't even ask me the question.
I'm with you on that actually. You know, when you got a packet of chewing gum and then it's like you pop it open and like, everyone's like, "Can I have one?" Fuck off and buy your own. That's my thought.
Exactly. You don't want to share your food.
No.
I agree with you. I'm with you.
I think we're very much alike, me and you. So, other than you're a lot calmer than I am, I get to anger a lot quicker. I can come back down very quickly, but I get to anger very, very quickly. As a captain, how do you balance what the coaches need and then relationships with other players? I'm not too sure as to the context of it, but they're the words that have been sent in and written down. So, how do you balance that?
It's a hard question because I think any situation like when I'm put into captaincy, regardless of what team it is, with GB or Titans, I'm always myself, and I think that's quite a reflection of why I guess people like me. They'll talk to me, they'll be open with me, they'll kind of listen and speak because I am just myself. And I think related to the coach's messages to the players, you have to find a way to relay messages that works for everybody. Everybody's different. Everybody needs something different that works for them. Some people do need that tough love. Some people do need that. It'll be okay. Let's try it this way. Take a step back. Like there's different ways of doing it. So I guess the coaches always have their views of what they want. And even though captains are a extension of that, I think captains are there because they're trusted their way, and it's the right way to do it for them. So I think it's really answering it. I think really you just be yourself. To read the room, you have to know who you work with. You have to understand what the main message is and relay it down the ways that's going to work for you. And then just kind of push that towards players as well. Like, for example, Titans, even at GD, I'll always be calm at first. I'll always be calm. I'll always be joking. I'll always be laughing. But then as soon as I feel like the standards are dropping, people aren't taking it serious, people talking over coaches, I'm quite similar to you. I'll turn around and quickly tell everyone to shut the fuck up and listen. And then the next sentence, I'll be being jokey again. So I think it's just you have to find that level where players respect you, you do things in the correct way, and you hold the standard accountable across the board.
Yeah. I think being that bridge between coaches and players and ultimately managing the dressing room, like the mentality, making sure that everyone's kind of on the same page, and ultimately just making sure that everyone's working towards that same outcome. Like that's what the team's all about, isn't it? It's just getting everyone pulling in the right direction. Important role being a captain, but I mean you've got to be, I suppose you've got to have the ability to just be honest with your teammates. Like that's the way I see it. Like if I have to lie to a teammate, I don't think that's going to result in a positive outcome in the long term. Like I'd rather just be honest, tell the truth, and be like, look, we need to get our fucking shit together. This is how we're going to do it. Come up with a plan and then act on that. Right, serious question out of the way. Next one. You might need to stand up for this. How tall are you?
Right. So this is the last time I'm going to say it, and we'll never ask these questions again. I am 6 foot tall, and we're going to leave it at that.
Okay, so the question is actually, how tall are you really? I'm not even joking.
Again, we're going to stay at 6 foot. We're going to stay at 6 foot, and then we're going to move on to the next one, Lenny. That's what we're going to do.
How did you feel scoring that touchdown against Denmark? Obviously, you wouldn't have picked it off if you weren't 6 foot. How did you feel getting across the goal line and setting the ball rolling for us?
I think it was a really good feeling because obviously from a team aspect, it's like what you said, like getting the ball rolling, scoring, kind of changing the momentum, get everyone hyped up to go into like the next half. But I guess selfishly in a personal way, it was like one of the best feelings I ever had because it was just such a good achievement to score on an international level, to do it in such a big game, in such a big moment. Like it just felt amazing. It was such a high. And to be fair, I think I'm not 100% confirmed this, but it might have been felt better than actually just winning a championship overall. I know that's very, very selfish, but it just felt so good.
But I just think it's just a big moment, isn't it? Like it's we talked about that the winning moment, and if you can bottle it into one play, like the impact and the euphoria that comes out of that is just massive in comparison to even if you're winning a big game and you're kind of streaking away with it. It's a very different feeling. Next question. What Titans players do you feel would be great at another position?
Damn.
I mean, obviously, you'd be great as a wide receiver at 6 foot.
Obviously, yeah. I mean, you put me at wide receiver, no issues. Bloomfield would throw 100 TDs a season. Be easy. I'd say obviously easy if you put someone like Max at safety. Like he's just a freak athlete. He obviously understands how to read the game because he plays offense. He understands how to read offenses. Ridiculous athlete, speed, vertical, everything. So yeah, Max is definitely one that could, with a good amount of coaching, could swap sides. I would say if you put someone like Joe Nick at linebacker, teach him the ropes. I mean, everyone understands when that man runs towards you, it's not a nice feeling. He has had free run without a ball in his hands because people down. I'd say the last one. I give him a lot of stick because obviously he's a good friend and I don't like to big him up too much. But you can most probably put Ricky at receiver as well because I know he's played it over in America. So you could put Ricky at receiver and then you get a good little few touchdowns out of him.
That's fair. I like that. Just as a bit of a self-indulgent question, I'm a bit of a free agent. Where would you put me?
Where would I put you? Obviously, I know you played running back. That's an easy choice. You could easily most probably step back in at running back and do a job. I'll take a linebacker as well. I think you've got that mentality. You're gonna sit there. You're gonna fucking go in for a tackle. You're not gonna. You're smart enough to understand what the game is meant to play and how it works. So yeah, linebacker or running back easily.
There's a little bit of me that would love to play linebacker, but it's a very little bit. It's a very small part of me. Appreciate that.
There's still a bit.
Right,
There's
the next
still a bit.
question. This next question is pretty cutthroat, right? This is I think this is a tough one. Let me find out. I'm going to tell you exactly who asked this. Was it Josh? It might have been Josh, you know. Oh, where's it gone? Right, I'm going to ask you the question, and while you're thinking of the answer, I am going to find out exactly who asked it. So, start, bench, or cut? DK, Manny, and Ricky. What are you doing?
Right. I'm gonna start Ricky because the relationship that me and Ricky has built up on the field over the last 3 going on 4 years is unmatched. If me and him are on the same side, it's just we don't need to talk to each other anymore. It just happens. So I can't get rid of that. I'd bench Manny because he's younger. He's faster than DK. He's a better athlete than DK, and he's younger. So I'll take Manny on the bench because then when Ricky finally gets too old and retires, I got Manny to jump in. And then, sorry, DK. I mean, with the comments you've been making lately about certain travels, I guess you got to get the cut. You got to go.
And that question was courtesy of Josh Fagan. I knew it was Josh. Stirring the pot. Right, the final question for you, my friend, and then I will let you go because I know we've had a good couple of hours and it's getting late now. But you've got. Actually, no, I'm going to ask you this one first. Who's winning the Super Bowl this year? Who's your pick?
I'm gonna say the Lions. The Lions are the winner.
I'd fucking love the Lions to win it. That'd be mint. Right. The Lions
It'd be
winning
amazing.
half time. You've got a 60-second slot to fill with an ad. You can't sell the spot. You can't do anything with it. What are you going to put on in that 60 seconds to fill it?
I would fill the 60 seconds with promoting getting a UK and ELF team and a professional league. American owner can just buy it and enjoy it.
A wise use of the 60 seconds. Or maybe not. We'll let people like lambast you on social media.
Yeah, the social media, people like to bash people. Fine.
Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on for the last couple of hours. Really appreciate you giving up your time to do this. Any final remarks? Anything you want to add before we break it off and finish it there?
No, mate, it's been a pleasure to be on. It's been a good talk. DK, you're cut. Just remember that. Don't forget it.
Do you know what? I nearly had a fight with DK before I even joined the Titans. I think it was the start of the season, just after you'd beat us. First game of our season for Tamworth, and I was going down the line. I told this to Sam Bloomfield as well. It was like, I wouldn't have said anything, but one of my boys came up to me, and I was like, right, I'll take care of it for you. Don't you worry. And I just wanted to fight. I was so fucked off. I just wanted to fight. So DK, it's all over. Yeah. Fossey says you're out. Anyway, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. If people want to find you, if people need to know where to get in touch with you so they can slag you off on social media, do you want to give them your Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram is _ and then Sam Fossey. So FOSSEY. I'm easy to find. Drop me a DM if you want to slag me off. I'll slag you off back. It's okay.
Easy. Nice one, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. Catch you in a bit.
Yeah, most definitely, mate. Catch you.
And there we go. That concludes episode number 88 of the Lenko Show with special guest Sam Fossey talking all things GB, Manchester Titans. And as I mentioned before, training for sports performance as instead of bodybuilding, it's very, very different. Make sure you do it properly. If you do want any help with your training programs, any help with your in-season sports performance, you can get in touch with Fossey. He specializes in it, does a lot of online coaching and programming. Or I am also available. That is my bread and butter day-to-day work, aside doing things like this, which are just a nice little bit of a breather for me. It's a great little way to actually sit down and enjoy my evening, speaking to my teammates, coaches, and various other people involved in the sport. So I have actually really, really enjoyed recording these last few episodes. So thank you very, very much for listening. If you've been a part of it, if you've been along through since the beginning of the podcast, that's been absolutely mint. Really appreciate you sticking around. And if you've just joined, if you just started listening, I hope you've enjoyed it. Please stick around for more. And so, yeah, just make sure, subscribe, join in, leave a little comment, leave a review. That would be absolutely sweet. I would really, really appreciate that. And then if you know anyone who would want to sponsor the British American football program, the Manchester Titans, or even be a sponsor of this podcast, please, please, please ask them to get in touch. That would be absolutely amazing. Anyway, until next time, that is it from me. Lenko out.